How can vaccines reduce the death rates within a population from an infectious disease? My chosen disease is diphtheria. The cause of bacteria is by the bacterial microorganism known as Corynebacterium diphtheriae. This certain bacterium releases a toxin which can cause infection of the nasopharynx, which may lead to breathing difficulties due to blockage of dead cells and proteins. Diphtheria can be transmitted by direct physical contact by person to person. This includes respiratory droplets that have been breathed out into the air by coughing or sneezing, meaning that the bacteria can travel to other individuals via airborne. Secretions from the nose and throat, such as mucus, phlegm, and saliva, can also spread diphtheria, as well as open wounds and skin lesions where it can make physical contact with another individual. In 1735, a diphtheria epidemic swept through New England in the United States. From the graph, we can see that there were many deaths recorded because of the diphtheria disease in 1738, just 3 years after the epidemic. The disease was still the main cause of death for many people and immensely spreading as represented by the peak of the graph. Located first in the New Hemisphere, spreading south toward Massachusetts and eventually into Connecticut. The towns of Hampton Falls and Kensington became a disaster of the diphtheria epidemic, killing 210 victims in Hampton and 250 victims in Kensington, mainly of which were children under the age of 10. Moreover, there was another outbreak of diphtheria in California. A doctor by the name of Victor Forgue described a diphtheria epidemic in where he treated his patients by applying a chemical acids in the infected areas but had no effect. From the graph, the line started extremely high, indicating that diphtheria was still spreading and causing deaths in the United States until the first use of the first antitoxin vaccine in 1894. As a result, the trend of the graph has been decreasing at the beginning of the 20th century. Assumptions were made by doctors that the spread was due to foul conditions of the sewers, and exhalations of an infected person can spread from one individual to another. Adults were required to travel to get to their workspace, meaning that some had to constantly enter and exit towns not knowing that the diphtheria bacteria can be present in the surfaces of objects and can travel through the air. Children during this time period would often go to school, play in parks and playgrounds. These were the cultural customs in America during this time period. The manholes near where kids were most active would often release contaminated air that was connected to the sewers, spreading the bacteria by inhaling the tainted air. Adults and children did not have access to sufficient healthcare systems. They could not afford to call a doctor to come to visit their homes. Although hospitals were active, it was not effective in treating patients due to lack of resources and equipment. The 18th and 19th century were characterized by overcrowding, poor housing, and bad water. These aspects were part of the cultural daily routine of people, and diphtheria can easily spread.